Hello, and welcome back to JimSnedekerMusic. This week, we want to talk about writing your first song, exploring music theory. To get started, first thing we want to do is in writing a song is to plan our approach. And this really consists of four main components. The first one is the melody. We want to make that memorable. Think about all your favorite songs. It's the melody that often pulls you in. Then harmony. We'll take a look at keys and chords, and we'll look at the circle of fifths and what that means. Then lyrics. Writing our lyrics, telling our story. Could be anything. Might be reading the news, having a conversation with a friend, you just finished a holiday. Each of those experiences, you have emotions. And the better that you can write those emotions, that will aid your ability to write lyrics. And then, lastly, I want to take a look at the structure of our song. Typical songs have verses, choruses, bridges, but some songs just have an A and B and a simple chorus or no chorus at all. We'll take a look at that. So that's our approach. Four main pillars. To begin to look at the concept of melody, this is very important. We want to identify our main emotion. So this is a little different than writing from a technical perspective. It's really, what is that emotion? What is that main thing that you're feeling about what you just experienced or about what triggered you to write a song? We want to shut out distractions and let that emotion guide you. What do you hear? Can you play it? This is where a keyboard with both high and low notes, things you can see really and touch, those things really help. Maybe it's a guitar. It's your instrument of choice, obviously, but a keyboard is a great start. And at this phase, we really want to turn off our judgment. We just want to play whatever comes to mind, whatever that emotion is guiding us to. Single notes or chords, that's not really the main concern right now. You may be playing notes, you might be playing chords. That's not important. Something that can help you identify your emotion is to hum or to sing what your main emotion is trying to say. And then you want to record it the best you can. It might be writing down some musical notes on transcript paper, manuscript paper. It might be taking your phone and making a simple recording, but not letting that melody go once you've captured it. Now we're going to move into songwriting harmony. This is our second pillar. First, we'll look at keys and chords. We have something called the circle of fifths, which you may or may not have seen before, but for today's purposes, we're not too concerned with sharps and flats. That's not really the scope of this particular video. We're more interested in relationships. So this wheel does a really good job of communicating relationships. Now we do see that there are 12 tones, 12 scales, if you will, and they follow a chromatic pattern. We have C, C sharp, D, D sharp. That's chromatic. But another thing this better communicates, I think, to the beginner is the relationships between things. If you go to the right, you notice the distance between a C and a G is 5 intervals. That could be a chord, a C major chord, and a G major chord, 5 steps, 5 intervals apart. Or if you look down below inside the circle at the minor circle, you'll see that an A minor, relative minor of C major, is 5 intervals away from E minor. These are things that can help us as we write songs. Minor chords give us color. So we understand the circle of fifths. We understand relationships. Notice as we go right, I said that was the fifth. Now look at C major again and go four. Go to the left, F to F. That's four away. That's four away from C. We're going backwards now. Circle of fifths, or I'm sorry, C to F is actually five. So we're going down five. If you go F to B flat, that's actually five, another five intervals. That's why they call this the circle of fifths. So I need to, we don't decrease by four, we decrease by five. See this? Moving left intervals decrease by five, not four. That's why they call it the circle of fifths. Typo on my part. So these intervals, along with their relative minor chords, this is what offers songwriters a menu of sonic choices. So in C, A minor, F, D minor, B flat, G minor, all a minor third below. That can enhance what we do in each of these keys. Okay, that's our quick intro to the circle of fifths. Now we're going to move on to something called scale modes. So I will tell you whether you can memorize the names Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian. That's not really important. What's more important is that you understand these modes. You understand what a mode is. A mode, very simply, is a different way of playing a scale. And it starts on a different note. For instance, the C major scale starts on C. When you start it on D, it has a whole different feel. That's called Dorian. Phrygian, well, that can be kind of a mysterious sound, but it's just what you need when you're looking to maybe take that melody and do something a little bit different with it. That's where modes can really help us. Again, it's not important to memorize all the names, but understand how they work. And the next time you pick up your instrument, it's worth experimenting whether this can add to your melody, the palette you might use to paint your next melody. Now we move into the lyrics writing process. So just 11 kind of things to keep in mind here as we walk through a process. This is just to help you get started of what a process might look like. First of all, most songs have a music first approach. But to aid us in that, before we have lyrics, we use kind of nonsense lyrics, and they help us to find the real ones. Use vowels and phrases you like. As you're singing some melody you like, just use a vowel you like. I like an E vowel. I use that a lot. Then you want to get your chorus, that first line, nailed down with your lyric. What is that main point of the song? And then finish the chorus best you can. Next, you want to craft the verses. This is where you can settle on a theme and a subject. Using intuition, it's a little different. You're refining as you go. Rather than having the whole thing mapped out before you do anything, this is using your intuition, piecing it together, kind of letting the song tell you what it's about. So next, you want to finish the song as far as you can as a rough draft. And definitely check your rhymes, your phrasing. Don't be afraid to count and match your syllables. This is a great thing to do, especially when you start adding harmonies and background vocals and things you want to keep really tight. The last thing to do, and something that might seem counterintuitive, but if we're using stream of consciousness writing, really makes sense, we pick a title, that very last step. And we kind of let the song tell us what it's about. Next, we go to the songwriting structure. This is kind of our fourth pillar of how to write our first song. So an intro, songs used to all have introductions, but more and more that's changing. In the past, history tells us that DJs would use those intros to introduce the next song or finish a commercial. There always seemed to be some reason for it. However, with streaming, there are no DJs talking. The song just starts playing. Next, we want to move on to the verse, and this is probably the hardest part of the song lyric to write. Even songs with just an A-B and structure, they have verses. Those verses tell the story. Next part is the pre-chorus. That may be optional. It's needed if the chorus needs a context that the verse does not include. I'd love to have some examples of this. If you have one for me where a pre-chorus is in a song, why don't you leave me a comment in the description of this video? I just could not think of one as putting this presentation together. Next in our songwriting structure, the chorus. That's the payoff. Here's the payoff, the main point, where the singer pulls the audience aside and summarizes what the song is all about. That's our chorus. Next, we have a bridge. Now, not every song has a bridge, but bridges typically give us a new perspective. They maybe do that with some different lyrics, maybe a different angle, different way to look at things, and they do it musically too. That's the whole point of a bridge. And then lastly, we'll look at what an outro is. It's the beginning, it's the end of the song. It's the beginning and the end. Now, outros you might be familiar with, they often offer a fade out kind of characteristic as the song fades away. And that's a little different than just having a hard ending last chord. So that's really what an outro is all about. So that's songwriting structure, those 6 things. It'd be good to have an example of some of the things that we've talked about in this week's video. So here's a song I wrote a number of years ago called The Best Is Yet to Come. And what I'd like to do is just show you how I treated the verse and the chorus and the bridge. So verse 1, I'm in the key of C. I used the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. So it's C, that's F, G, and then I threw an A minor in. If you have your circle of fifths handy, you can see that the relative minor of C major is A minor. And I added that just for a slightly different color on the melody. So let me show you how this goes. A little short intro. Caught up in this daily grind. To get ahead, I'm falling way behind. Deep within, I feel alone. It's time to shed this empty life I've known. Searching for a better way, my heart turns to the sun. 'Cause there upon his holy page, he promises the best is yet to come. That's the verse. Now, the chorus. He knows the plans he has for me. Plans for good, not calamity. Oh no, to give me a future and a hope eternally. As I follow on this quest, I realize the best is yet to come. So the music on the chorus is very similar. What I did though with the melody is I raised the note up. Like for the verse you're here, caught up in this daily grind. And the chorus I said, he knows the plans he has for me. So similar music, just a little different. But again, the chorus emphasizing the whole point of the song. And then we move along to verse 2, which musically will be the same music I had in verse 1. Set my mind on things above. Then I know I'm anchored in his love. Here in time by faith I see. Where I go, when this world's through with me. Heaven is the place God made to live with his dear ones. All my sins his blood has paid. To follow him the best is yet to come. I should also mention to you, I changed the music in the middle of the verse. I'm kind of on a one melody, and I set my mind on things above. Here in time by faith I see, that's the same. And then I change when I get to heaven. Heaven is the place God made to live with his dear ones. All my sins his blood has paid. To follow him the best is yet to come. Then I do the chorus again. He knows the plans he has for me. Plans for good, not calamity. Oh no, to give me a future and a hope eternally. All my sins as I follow on this quest, I realize the best is yet to come. Kind of had a hiccup on the words there, sorry about that. Now the bridge, musically quite a bit different. For all his goodness, he cannot hide. Quite a bit different musically. Don't miss his purpose. Now watch this. Eternal life. Then we get back. Life. Only God has passed this test. Trust in him, he'll do the rest. I suggest the best is yet to come. Okay, a couple things. In the bridge, remember we said the bridge would be introduce kind of a unique perspective on the song, something a little bit different, a different viewpoint. How did I do that? Well, I really changed the music. I went to this B flat. Well, there's no B flat chord in the key of C, so that's a change. And then I end on this D chord, which is also a little different. For all his goodness, he cannot hide. Don't miss his purpose. Eternal life. Only God has passed it. Now this is like the end of the chorus, right? But I added one more to it. So instead of 2 times through that, I added one more lyric line. Only God has passed this test. Trust in him, he'll do the rest. I suggest the best is yet to come. And then we repeat the chorus. He knows the plans he has for me, and so on. So this gives you just a little sample of how I wrote a song and what my chorus, how it was different than the verse, how the verses tell the story. The chorus is the main point of the song, and then we bring in the bridge, and it is quite a bit different. It doesn't last very long. It's quick because I want to get back to the main song. But I do this to give you an example, and there's a lot of different ways to do this, but I think sometimes we learn from examples as well as anything. So hopefully this has been helpful. So in conclusion, this was our approach. We took a look at melody. We want to make that memorable. We want to, in our harmony, we want to consider keys and chords and their relationship. And the circle of fifths can really help us with that. The more you understand the circle of fifths, the better you're going to understand music theory. The more you understand music theory, it's kind of like adding tools to your songwriting toolbox. Lyrics, they help us tell that story. You know, we talked about how they could be just experiences you've been going through, but producing some kind of emotion. We're telling that story, telling those events from your own emotional perspective. And you want to balance that. Want to make your lyrics natural, the way you talk. Want to be flexible as we write lyrics. Structure, we want to also, the fourth component, to review as we conclude this video is I want to take a look at verse and chorus. I want to consider these things, the tag or the bridge, how that relates. So that very briefly was our intro to writing your first song, exploring and introducing music theory. Thanks for joining me.